Hold up, wait a minute. Before you check out, make sure you watch this video. Hey, how's it going? I'm Mikey, and this is Comics by the Cover. If you are new to the channel, I first want to say thank you. I appreciate that you're able to find me. If you are returning to the channel, thank you. You're super awesome. You are the best. I appreciate you greatly. So if you are, again, new to this channel, what we do in this video is I look at the top 10 list that is put out by ComicTom every week, and it is based on the Key Collector Trending 20. We poll those books on my Instagram starting on Friday. So I asked my followers on Friday if these are books that they're interested in buying or books that they're potentially passing on. And then occasionally, sometimes some books come up split. And then we take that information and then we dive a little bit deeper into the list and see if there's potential other opportunities that we may be looking at when we come down to this list. And I just kind of give you my thoughts generally on the list overall and what I think things that I'm looking at once I usually watch this list, much like many of you may have. So with that said, we're going to go and get this kicked off. Coming in at number 10 that pulled on the list was Shadowcraft. This came in at a 65.35 buy, so a lot of people are interested in this book. This is a new series, so there's really not a lot that I can say about it. I know it was quickly optioned for a Netflix series, but as you know, a lot of books will get optioned fairly quickly, but then they can sit in the water for quite some time. So this is one of those situations where the book may go hot and then may cool off for a little bit and then pick back up steam again. I will say though, there are a lot of books that are optioned, and if you are interested and wanting to know more about those, like I said, when you go into the Key Collector app, there's a category for you called Option Indies, and you can kind of scroll through that list and see what books may be coming up. It's a great way to kind of earmark, or you can potentially Google some of those ones and see which ones are where they stand in the current development process, which could be a good option for you long term if those are the directions you want to go with indie option books. There is another new book that I think you might want to keep an eye on that came out recently called Stray Dogs. I was surprised how much I enjoyed this book. I entered it thinking to myself, this probably isn't going to be something I'm going to be that into, but it was surprisingly good, and I can see this potentially being picked up eventually. So if you haven't secured a copy of that, I would recommend that you do so. I do think that a lot of people I've talked to that have read this book also finds it very enjoyable. So going on with the list, coming in at number 2, we have the Last Ronin number 2. This is the WonderCon variant. This pulled at a 55.45, so it is a buy. Now this, the Last Ronin isn't a stranger to this list by any means. You've seen it appear a few times on here, whether it's the Last Ronin number 2 or Last Ronin number 1, and I'll put those right here for you where you can see those polls. And this generally polls around the same every time that it shows up, so around that 60-40 split range is usually what comes up on here. I will say, if this being a WonderCon exclusive variant, if you weren't aware of what cons are coming up, you may have easily missed this book. So if you are interested in some of these con exclusives as we go into 2021, and we probably are still going to experience a lot of the pandemic stuff, I would recommend that you maybe want to look at going into readpop.com. It's a great resource for you, so you can see what cons are coming up, and also they allow you to get access to some of these books as well. So that's a good option for you if you are interested in some of these con variants that may come out over the next few years. I know there were a lot of them they did last year, so I would expect the same would be the case for this year. So coming in at number 8 on the list was Strange Tales of Warlock, number 179. This was the first appearance of Pip the Troll. This had started trending because of speculation rumors that at the end of the Eternals film that Pip introduces Star Fox into the series or into the MCU. So that's kind of what got this book trending. Actually, this book is currently polling at a 33.67, so it's a pass for a lot of people. But I will say that this book may register the same way that Rocket Raccoon did in his first appearance. So it may not be a book that immediately registers to people that something that people are into, but as the character is introduced, gains in popularity, and then you may see him a little bit more, and this book may slowly move from the past to the buy category, or at least somewhere in the middle, as it gains more popularity and recognizability. And that's one of the things I always like to point out with a lot of books is as they become more recognizable covers, then they do tend to tend to trend favorably long term. So I would keep an eye on this book. Maybe not strike on it right now. I do know it's pretty fairly affordable. This is one of those books that when the list did drop, the trending 20 list, I did go in and pick up a couple copies of it. As you can see right here, I picked up a couple graded copies, a 6.0 and a 9.0 for fairly reasonable prices. I'm not a big slab buyer. Especially not in this current market. I have my beliefs around the third-party grading and its impact to the current pricing market. And I'm thinking about doing a video about that. If you're interested, let me know. I've done a lot of research on it. So if you want to know my thoughts on the current pricing market and why it's so ridiculously high, I'll be happy to do that for you. But anyways, also with this book, a couple points of interest for it was, this is, again, like I said, the first appearance of Pip the Troll. And there's a full-on appearance in here. But one of my favorite issues for him, that as I was kind of going through his like history of books and kind of figuring out a little bit more about the character, was this Warlock number 12. This is the origin of Pip. I just love this cover. It's just it's just the boss cover in my opinion. It's just so chill on it. So that's a book that I was looking at as well. And of course, if you are interested, wanted to go this route for Star Fox, he does make his first appearance in Iron Man number 55 alongside with Thanos. But this is just a cameo appearance. As you can see, it's just a very brief one-panel flashback panel, and he's not even in the right skin tone. He's purple because that's what the Titans were at that time. But he does also make his first full appearance in Captain Marvel number 27, which is a book that I am interested in trying to pick up as soon as I find it for the right price. I did look online. It looks like it's pretty well reasonably priced, but it's one of those ones that I like to try to see if I can find it in a back bin before I commit to buying it online at a higher price with shipping and taxes and all that kind of stuff factored into it. Coming in at number 7 was Black Panther number 4. This pulled split. Those are my favorite ones, where people just aren't quite certain what they want to do with this book. So interestingly enough, this book started trending because of Falcon and Winter Soldier spec, and I would expect that there's probably going to be a lot more Falcon and Winter Soldier spec coming out over the next couple of weeks or a few weeks as the show kind of continues to air. Now, I personally bought back into this book back in December of last year, and I didn't buy into it for a Falcon and Winter Soldier spec, but I did buy into it because I do think it is a strong Black Panther spec book, and we know we're going to get this Wakandan TV series that is scheduled to come out. And the reason why I kind of bought into this is not so much because it's the first appearance of White Wolf, but it's also the first appearance of the Hatut Sirise, which is a police organization that was within Wakanda, and they eventually got banished from by T'Challa. But I can see that this being a group that would be a potential struggle match with the Dora Milaje. And that's kind of why I bought into this book, is because I think this character will be a point of interest for a Black Panther movie, because right now with like WandaVision and with Falcon Winter Soldier, both of these stories are focused on the time during the blip. So how do these communities react during the blip, during these 5 years? And that to me is a compelling story for this Wakanda potential Disney Plus series. Is what happened in Wakanda during the 5 years, because T'Challa was blipped. So who was there a power struggle? Who took onto the reins during that moment? What happened? And that's where I think a book like this can factor in. So that's why I personally bought into this. Some other books I would say for consideration if you're looking to go this route, in my mindset, was that I bought into Black Panther number 1. This is the first appearance of the Dora Milaje as a group. This is also the first appearance of Okoye and what's her name? Nakaya, something like that, if I recall. And then, of course, Ultimates number 1 for the first appearance of AO, which, of course, no spoilers, is a good option for you as well that you may want to consider. Coming in at number 6 on the list, we had Nightwing number 78. This was the first appearance of the new mayor, Melinda Zuko. I'm not a huge DC fan, so I don't read a lot of DC books. I do read Batman, but not some of these spin-off title series like Nightwing and so forth. I'll flip through them sometimes and maybe pick up or read an occasional book, but generally I'm not too familiar with this. But as you can see, this polled at also a 50-50 split. I think this book polled, if I recall, because people thought that this was, well, first I think this is a really awesome cover, but first, the other thing is this book pulled because there was a belief that this may have a first appearance in there outside of the one that's listed, which was for a character by the name of Heartless, who does appear in issue number 79. So I will say, if you haven't had the opportunity to get that book added to your pool, add that one to your pool, because you'll probably also see that one trend in the next month or so. So coming in at number 5 on the list was Captain America number 323. This is the first appearance of John Walker. He first appears, of course, as Super Patriot. It's also the first appearance of Lamar Hoskins, if I recall. This book is gaining in popularity. It previously pulled at a 68.32, so I would probably think that this book probably would continue to gain in popularity, as well as the first appearance of him as the U.S. agent, as that storyline continues to develop and we eventually leave that role. Because I think what you're going to see is that this character is kind of going to go through this moment where he's this good guy, then he's going to become this bad guy, and then he's going to become this good guy again. And I think that dimension of a character is always appealing. And I think, when you think about that, he'll probably have a longer term play if they decide to kind of go that route. Otherwise, I would hate for them to just kind of write him off as just a good and bad and then gone. But we'll see, right? So coming in at number 4 on the list was Superboy number 9. This book pulled at 75.25, so if people are interested in wanting to buy this book is pulled previously, so it's a repeat offender to the list. But so prior to me making these videos, I remember seeing this book last year, and I really wish I had pulled the trigger on this book when I saw it, but I was just certain I was going to find it in a back bin, but unfortunately I never did. So we'll say, if you see this book, definitely something to pick up if you see it. And this is one of those books, like I said, you may find it in a back bin. I just haven't had any luck on it. This book gives me serious FOMO. I really wish I had picked this book up, but it's one of those things I'm just going to have to accept that I did not do. And, well, it's just one of those things we got to live with. But I will say, though, there are a few books you may want to consider that also pulled on the list if you're looking to go this route for Suicide Squad. Savant appeared in this issue of Birds of Prey number 56. We also had the first appearance of Bloodsport right here in Superman. And then another book that I thought was interesting that was on the list of the Suicide Squad category under Key Collector is this first appearance of Amanda Waller, which appeared in Legends number 1, which may be a book that you may want to consider as well. Coming in at number 3 on the list with Thundercats. They're on the loose. Number 1, which pulled out a 78.22 buy as well. It's another book that people are interested in. This book had a lot of variants, apparently. A lot of prints, rather. So second, third, fourth prints, and so forth. So be on the lookout for those. I was trying to find it, but there's a person I saw somewhere who gave a good breakdown of how these books pull differently or how they look differently. If I find it sometime after edit, then I will put that in here. But of course, this is the first appearance of Thundercats, first appearance of Mumra, and that nostalgia, it's in full effect. I mean, people are definitely feeling that 90s, 80s nostalgia, 80s, 90s nostalgia. I guess I'll be in the right direction, right? And I would continue to probably see that going forward. One of the books that I started to look at after I saw this book on the list as, okay, well, where direction might I want to go in? And that was with Voltron number 1. And if you look at this according to the cover price data for the sales information, you can see this book has been trending up, and it's maybe a book that you may want to potentially look at. I do know that there was a recent sale for this on the 9.8 that sold for an incredible price as well. Coming in at number 2 on the list was Uncanny X-Men number 282. This is the first cameo appearance of Bishop, the first cover appearance of Bishop, which is one of those weird situations where the cameo will win. So if there's a cameo appearance, but they're also on the cover, then that is usually going to be the winning book. However, he did make his next first full appearance in Uncanny X-Men number 283, which he's on that cover as well. So that might be a book that you may want to look at. And again, if you look at the cover pricing on this and trends on this book also has been favoring as well as a trending up book. So it might be another book that you may want to consider picking up if you miss out on issue number 282, as that book may gain in popularity as well. We've been seeing that trend often where cameos and first appearances have been trending favorably together, and I would continue to expect that to probably happen. This book pulled at a 91.9, so a lot of people are interested in buying this book. I think this was one of the highest pulled books for this week, so I'll be on the lookout for it. It's an easy to find book. In fact, this is actually the first book that I purchased when I moved to Virginia. So I grew up in Oklahoma City. My dad retired from the Navy, then I moved to Virginia, and I remember picking up this book from the local food line, and so there it is, your newsstand edition of Uncanny X-Men number 282. Again, I purchased that as my first comic book when I first moved to Virginia back in the late 80s, early 90s. And the other thing we would say is be on the lookout for those other mutant keys. And, I want to be surprised if you see Jubilee pop back up again, as well as a potential character that people may have interest in if they're looking to go this route. But, one of my characters, I think they said that this book started printing because of the whole time travel aspect for Bishop, and he shows up because of that. But another character that I think is even more appealing when you look at not so much time travel, but multi-dimensional travel, and that would be the first appearance of Blink. Definitely keep an eye out for that book as well as an option for you if you're wanting to go this route for multiverse / time traveler. Finally, coming in at number 1 on the list with Truth, pulled in at a 64.36. This book previously pulled as well. I think it was last week. It pulled at a 61.39. So this book is slowly gaining in popularity. Again, it's another book that's been a repeat offender. This book is becoming more and more recognizable as a cover, so I wouldn't be surprised if you see this book continue to trend up as people recognize the cover more and more. I did a lot of my considerations and thoughts on this book back in the last video, so you can check that out. I'll put a link up here for that one if you're interested, want to know my thoughts on this book. The one takeaway I would say from between last video and this week's video is I did look up the IMDb for Falcon and Winter Soldier for last week's episode of who. I was just curious, did they credit the grandson character as Eli Bradley in it? And the answer is yes, they did. So I will say that last week's episode gave us the full introduction of Eli Bradley, or gave us an introduction of Eli Bradley, and so I would expect so that the Young Avengers #1 may be a book that may become of interest more and more. Again, if you haven't secured that book, I highly recommend that you do, because I do see that book going to crazy heights over the next few years potentially. So with that said, as always, that is the list. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found some value in this. If you did, you can leave a like. Otherwise, I will see you in the next video. As always, bye!